Yankees win another series. And this one included a no-hitter by Corey Kluber. The Yankees pitching has been really otherworldly for the majority of the season. I think that we could see that in baseball now, pitching is dominating. There's no question about it. The Yankees are fall right in line with that, where their hitting has really not been up to snuff. And there's a number of reasons for that, but the pitching has been really great. We've seen a lot of no-hitters this year, but it doesn't make it really any less special. You know, with Corey Kluber, there's no Yankee attachment. He's a year-one Yankee who got off to a little bit of a slow start, but recently has picked it up in a major way. And this was a very dominant no-hitter. This wasn't, a situation where he had 3 or 4 walks and there was so many good defensive plays. It was just 1 walk, 9 strikeouts. So he deserved this one. And that was the highlight of really was a very interesting series where Garrett Cole in game 1 breaks the consecutive strikeout streak where it was held at 58 by Corbin Burnes this year, ironically enough. And again, it goes to show you sort of the gaudy numbers that we've been seeing this year. And Cole in the first inning would break that record, and he would extend it a bit too, and eventually would walk a guy. So he broke the record at 59 and then extended it to 61. But Cole did not pitch well in game 1, and the Yankees still won the series. They won the other 3 games. So definitely unique in the fact that if you had told me that Cole, you lose the Cole game, all right, well then hopefully we were able to manage a split. It didn't happen. They win the series. They are now 7-0-2 in their last 9 series, 7-3 on the road trip, and 20-9 in their last 29 games. So they are really hitting their stride at a good point in time. And I'm very interested in seeing what this next 6-game, going back home, the 6-game homestand will bring, where they face the White Sox this weekend and then the Blue Jays, a key division opponent who the Yankees have struggled with this year. So let's get right into this exciting series. And like I said, Cole starts game 1 against Jordan Lyles. So definite advantage goes to the Yankees in terms of the pitching matchup. And for this one, keep in mind that, Giancarlo Stanton officially placed on the IL before the Texas series. So he hadn't played at all in the Baltimore series. Now he's on the IL. They're hoping it's not going to be that long. Who knows? But that puts him on the shelf for a bit. And at least temporarily, Albert Abreu, who would pitch in that first game and then be sent down, took his place in the roster. We would also see Rougned Odor return the series, as well as Gleyber Torres. And we'll get into some of those roster moves and what happened. But in the first game, the Yankees would jump out and give Garrett Cole that early lead, as DJ LeMahieu would single, Luke Voit would then single, Judge strikes out, and Gio Urshela, who is the clutchest guy on the Yanks, and that includes DJ LeMahieu, and is honestly one of the clutchest players in all of baseball, gets an RBI single, and it gives the Yankees a 1-0 lead. But then Gary Sanchez would ground into a double play, and that would be a theme in this series and this season. The Yankees have by far grounded into the most double plays, including 5 in the Kluber no-hitter game. I believe they grounded into a double play, or not grounded, at least hit into a double play 5 times. Then in that first, with the Cole situation very much at the forefront, because again, if he walks someone, he doesn't break that record, and he gives up a leadoff double to Willie Calhoun, and then he strikes out the next 3 guys, Solak, Nate Lowe, and Joey Gallo, which was an impressive, really impressive run by Cole. And you could tell he was pumped up by it. I'm almost wondering if there was a bit of a letdown from Cole after breaking that record. Again, just straight speculation on my part, but it seemed that way, because in the second, it would be a leadoff home run from Adolis Garcia, then back-to-back doubles by David Dahl and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa to give the Texas Rangers a 2-1 lead. He would record an out, Kiner-Falefa would steal third, and then Jose Trevino would make it 3-1. So a really not-so-good inning by Garrett Cole. The Yankees' bats were held down, as you might expect. In the top of the 4th, Brett Gardner gets a 2-out triple, and then Clint Frazier strikes out looking. And again, with Clint, who would be out for the last 2 games of this series. I believe it was either 2 or 3. I think it was the last 2 with what Aaron Boone is calling neck stuff. So we'll see if that becomes an IL situation, but it's other something to monitor. But when Clint was in there, yeah, again, just too much, just taking strikes down the middle for strike 3 and just throughout the at-bat. Cole would give up a leadoff home run to Willie Calhoun, which reminds me, Calhoun hits a home run on an 0-2 pitch, and Garcia, I believe, in the second, did so as well. Cole, for as good as he's been, for some reason this year, not really wasting the 0-2 pitch. I don't know why he hasn't. I've noticed it. Again, Cole is amazing, and, it's ridiculous to nitpick, but yeah, 2 0-2 home runs. I'm sure he won't like that either. So they decide in the 6th to have him start the inning. It seemed like maybe they were going to bring out Abreu, but Cole starts the inning and gives a leadoff hit to Garcia, and then he's out. Then things get a little bit sloppy, mainly with Higashioka, where Abreu really honestly does a good job for the rest of the game. And this ends up being an unearned run to Cole, where Dahl flies out, Connor Falefa grounds out, so Garcia moves to second. Then there's a wild pitch by Abreu. Culberson walks. So it's first and third, 2 outs. Trevino's up, and Culberson's still second. And for some reason, Higashioka throws through, so then Adolis Garcia steals home. So I'm just not too sure why Higgy wouldn't have eaten that. And the wild pitch, I kind of blame him for that as well. So Higgy, on the defensive side, which is he's usually pretty solid, doesn't come through there. But Higgy, we have to give him props because he was the catcher for Kluber's no-hitter. So this is the end of the Higgy bad talk defensively. But that would give the Rangers a 5-1 lead. Lyles pitches those 6 innings. They bring in John King, who pitches a scoreless 7th. And then with 1 out in the 8th, they bring in Josh Spores. And with 2 outs in the inning, Luke Voigt homers. This might have been the only home run, unless they home run in Game 2, which we'll get into next. This Voigt home run might have been their only home run of this 4-game set, unless there's a home run that's escaping me from that Game 2. But Voigt, again, with that home run, this was kind of one of his few bright spots. It's been a little bit of a rough go so far for Luke Voigt, which you'd expect off the injury, but he has not been the Luke Voigt that we saw last season. But he certainly, got into this one and, cut the lead to 5-2. Abreu pitches another scoreless inning, and then Ian Kennedy puts him at 1-2-3. So Texas wins 5-2. Good job by Albert Abreu, who pitches 3 really good innings and has actually really been good this year. And for someone who, when we've seen him in the past, has struggled. So he saved the pen, and that was good. So Yankees lose that one. Let's jump to Game 2. Game 2 would be between Jameson Taillon, and I think we can safely say that the pecking order for the rotation, it's known, and Taillon is definitely number 5. There is really no question about that. He has struggled. And so this was Taillon versus Mike Foltynewicz, who, again, Foltynewicz, another guy who is hittable. Luckily this time, unlike Lyles the previous night, the Yankees would eventually get to Foltynewicz. But this would be Rougned Odor's return against Texas, no less, the team that he, spent the better part of 5 or 6 seasons with. So he's back. And in this game, so Frazier was actually out the last 3 games of this series. And I'm not sure if the next stuff had been a factor. It got brought up before the 3rd game. I think people had assumed for this one that it was just a regular old day off because he had been struggling. But Andujar would be the guy who would start and left, I believe, the last 3 games of the series and played pretty well out there. I didn't notice any mistakes from him. Judge would DH. He would actually DH in Game 2 and 3 and would come off the bench in the 4th game. So they really are trying to keep Judge off his feet as much as they can. And Ryan Lamar would get a start in this one as well. Gary Sanchez would catch Taillon. So I think the theme here is going to be Higashioka for Cole and Kluber, and likely Sanchez for the rest. Assuming nothing crazy with like a day game after night game type of thing. So Taillon pitches a couple of scoreless innings. In the 3rd is when he would get into some trouble. 1 out double by Jonah Heim, and with 2 outs, an RBI single by Nick Solak. then a walk to Nate Lowe, another walk to Joey Gallo, and a 2-run single for Adolis Garcia to make it 3-0. So 3-0 Texas, really rough go for Tyone that inning. And we've seen that a lot. And Tyone on the road especially has just not been great. He's had trouble. I feel like a lot of the damage has been with 2 outs. And this was another example where he could have stopped the bleeding, could not. And so Texas takes a 3-0 lead. But really, the turnaround in this series happens the next inning. And this was by far the Yankees' best offensive inning all series long. An inning in which Brett Gardner would record 2 of the 3 outs. So Gardner against Voltynewicz flies out. Then Judge singles. Then Gio Urshela gets an RBI double to make it 3-1. Rougned Odor pops out. And then Gary Sanchez with an RBI double. And then Miguel Andujar with an RBI single. On this play, Sanchez, I think he would leave the game later on with a hamstring cramps. And I think it was because of the fact that he kind of busted it. He actually looked pretty fast, but it's crazy. And he's fine, but he would leave the game, but he would score, and it would tie it up at 3. Mike Ford would then hit a single that almost went out. It was a near home run off the right field wall to make it first and third 2 outs. Ryan Lamar would work a walk, which would be critical. They take Voltynewicz out. They bring in Colby Allard and DJ LeMay with a clutch 2-run double down the right field line. Gives the Yanks a 5-3 lead. Gardner would then pop out to end the inning. Tyone pitches a scoreless 4th. Then in the bottom of the 5th, and I felt like they were kind of playing with fire, leaving in Tyone as long as they did. And it would come back to bite a bit, as with 1 out in the 5th, the last batter that Tyone would see would be Nick Solak, who would hit a home run to right center. So that would be it for Tyone. He would not qualify for the win, gives up 4 runs, and then the bullpen does an excellent job. And Wandy Peralta has been really good. And I think Wandy Peralta is a high leverage lefty at this point in time with Zach Britton on the shelf. Peralta and Licky to a lesser degree have been really important. And so Peralta is able to, get the last 2 outs of that 5th. Then in the 6th, Andujar singles, Ford walks, Lamar flies out, but Andujar gets the 3rd. They bring in Hunter Wood to face LeMahieu. He gets a sac fly. So that would increase the Yankee lead to 6-4. So a big run there. Then in the 6th, Peralta gets the lefty, so he gets 3 outs, and then Jonathan Loaizaga would come into the game, and he would get the next 5 outs as he would complete the 6th and the 7th. In the bottom of the 8th, it would be Chad Green, who got hit pretty hard that inning, but would pitch a 1-2-3 inning. And then in the top of the 9th, you get a Brett Gardner walk, an Aaron Judge single to make it 1st and 3rd, and then Gio Urshela grounds out and a run scores. So an RBI ground out for Gio. Yankees take a 7-4 lead. Chapman comes in for the 9th. And what do you know? With a double in between, he strikes out the other 3 batters he would face. So the Yankees, in a pretty gutsy comeback where they're down 3-0, Tyone struggles, and they have that really big 4th inning, that 5-run 4th where they string a bunch of hits together. And right, there were no home runs in this game. So the Yankees just had that one Voit homer. So again, it goes to show that when you can build that rally, it can go a long way. So the Yankees win that. And so now we head to really the highlight of the series, and that would be Corey Kluber's no-hitter. So it would be Kluber versus Yang, a lefty for Texas, who had, I think, 4 appearances. He had been over in Japan and, older guy, but pitched pretty well. But Kluber was just unreal. So good. And you could tell that Texas was completely off balance. They really had no chance. But still, this is the first no-hitter for the Yankees since 1999 where David Cone pitched a perfect game. So, which was their second longest span. I think it was 22 years. The longest having been 27 years. So it had been a while. And, again, it was great to see Kluber, who was a very calm guy, show a smile. Again, considering the circumstance, it seemed like it was just a regular old night at the park for him. One of the keys in this game, and I would say that the player of the game, besides Kluber, of course, was actually Tyler Wade. So what happens is, let's see, what inning was it? In the 3rd, Ryan Lamar grounds out, but he would pull his hamstring, and he would actually be placed on the IL after this game. So Tyler Wade comes in. And it just goes to show you also, Clint Frazier was not put into this game because, again, he has these neck issues. So Tyler Wade, who's a natural infielder, but someone who can be a utility guy, comes in to right field and would make, like, I think 5 or 6 putouts and some key ones down the stretch. But what happens is in the 6th, Yang gets into some trouble. A leadoff walk to Higashioka, and then the big hit of the game, an RBI triple for Tyler Wade. And then DJ LeMay would hit a sac fly and Wade would score. And that would be all. The Yankees would take a 2-0 lead, and that would be all that Kluber would need. So he had already recorded his 9th strikeout in the 7th. But the rest of the way, the fielders would come through. It would be Joey Gallo, who would ground out to Voit, a very easy play. Then Chris Davis grounds out to Gio, who made a nice little pick and gets the out. And then Connor Falefa hits the ball pretty well to Tyler Wade and right, who makes the catch. Then in the bottom of the 9th, Culberson on kind of a humpback liner to LeMahieu at second, makes a nice little scoop and gets the out. Then David Dahl, this was probably the closest call, hits the ball pretty well, sort of into the right field corner, but Wade has so much speed, he easily gets over there, makes the catch. And the last out of the game, Willie Calhoun into the shift, grounds out to Gleyber Torres, and Corey Kluber pitches a no-hitter. So really fun to watch. If Kluber can become a legitimate number 2 starter in this rotation, that's a great replacement for Masahiro Tanaka. And that's kind of what I view him as. He's kind of that Tanaka replacement at this stage in the game, that veteran presence who's been around the block, who's pitched in the postseason. And do I think that it's going to be smooth sailing at this the rest of the way? Absolutely not. But Kluber has solidified himself as one of the key guys behind calling this in this rotation, and it'll be very interesting to see how he comes back from this no-hitter. His next start will be against the Blue Jays, who he's had some mixed results again. He's faced them twice this year. He did okay against them his first outing, not so good the second. So we'll see what he does in that next start against Toronto. But again, kudos to Corey Kluber, and it's been a pretty long road back. I mean, he was kind of irrelevant for the 2019 and 2020 season, but before that was a Cy Young caliber guy for like 3 or 4 seasons. Now we head to the all-important last game of the series, and this has been a talking point for me that the Yankees in the last games of the series, whether it be a chance to sweep or a chance to maybe win a series, I think back to the Baltimore series a few weeks back, where they just don't have that killer instinct and can't grab that last win. And in a competitive AL East, it's very important. Well, in this game, the script was very similar, where the score was exactly identical. Domingo Germán was great, and the Yankees got the 2 runs they needed. This time in the 7th, the last game was in the 6th. So an extremely similar outcome. Domingo Germán, that is, your top 3 is Cole, Kluber, and Germán, no doubt about it. With Montgomery as a definite 4 and Tyone as a definite 5. Again, will this last? That remains to be seen, but Germán is solidifying himself as one of the relied upon guys with Cole and Kluber. So in this one, a lot of, you would have Gio and Judge on the bench, and boy, would that be key because they would eventually have the biggest hits of the game. But Germán in this one ran into some trouble here and there. Most notably, it was first and second no out in I want to say the 4th. Yeah, the 4th. And he would strike out David Dahl when he was behind him 3-0, and then he would get Connor Falefa to ground into double play. The fielding for the Yanks has been very solid lately. Where it was a problem for a while, that defense has been good. What was a problem in this game was the base running. Oh, wow, was it a problem. So in the 3rd, going back to the top of the 3rd, Mike Ford would single. And it's interesting that Mike Ford continues to stay on this roster, thanks to the fact that Rougned Odor was put on the paternity leave for 1 game this series. If that doesn't happen, Gleyber came back. I think Ford would have been the one that might have been sent down. And then Lamar gets hurt, so he gets placed now. So Ford kind of just continues to survive this roster somehow. And so I guess, maybe the next time it comes into question is when Stan comes back, but Ford does single, and Duhar singles as well. So first and second no outs, and then Tyler Wade. There's 2 things that I'm thinking about here. One, I actually don't love the idea of Wade bunting in that situation, only because Gardner was up after LeMahieu. But I certainly understand why Wade would bunt that spot. It's first and second no outs. Wade is not a great hitter, and Tyler Wade just has not been great at being able to lay down a bunt. So really bad job by Wade, who would take a strike on a bunt, like where he kind of pulled back, and then he would bunt one foul, then he would strike out looking. Then LeMahieu hits a ground ball to Nate Lowe. They get the out at second. And for some reason, Mike Ford is straying off third, and they throw him out at third. I don't know what he was thinking about or where he was going, but just Ford, to me, just kind of fell asleep. Horrible base running by Mike Ford, gets thrown out. So that ends the inning. Then we move to the seventh. Move to the seventh. John King replaces the starter, Dane Dunning. So Dunning pitches 6 scoreless innings. King, a lefty, hits Odor to start the inning. Never what you want to do. Torres then grounds out softly, so Odor moves to second. Runner on second, 1 out. Gary Sanchez with a single. But, Odor stays at third. But Sanchez, again, it's been better than last year. I'll leave it at that. So Urshela pinch hits for Mike Ford. The perfect spot and the perfect guy to do it. And it reminds me of when he pinch hit for Wade in Baltimore and hits the 3-run homer in the 7th to give him the lead. Here, first and third, 1 out. Pinch hits for Ford. And like clockwork, just a sharp single to the opposite field. Odor scores. Yankees take a 1-0 lead. So now it's first and second, and Duar strikes out. They then pinch hit Aaron Judge, and he has been a really bad pinch hitter in his career. He gets his first pinch hit, a really key run, which scores Sanchez. But on the play, they throw it to third, and Urshela on second was considering going to third, I guess, and they end up throwing Gio out at second. Again, I don't know what Gio was thinking about. The Yankees are not a fast team at all. They might be one of the slowest teams in baseball, so just go station to station. You don't want to take the aggressiveness out, but just be smart. These aren't even like plays where it's like, well, I can understand where you get thrown out here. Just pure stupidity, where guys got thrown out retreating back to the base. Ford goes back to third and gets thrown out. Urshela goes back to second and gets thrown out. Just really stupid baseball. And unacceptable, and if they hadn't won, would have been a much bigger issue. So Herman then completes the 7th, and I'd actually thought that maybe it made some sense to bring Herman out for the 8th. He was only at 87 pitches, but with a rested bullpen, Green comes in, pitches a 1-2-3/8. Then in the 9th, more bad base running by Gio, where he walks with 1 out, and Duhar reaches on a throwing error, and Judge is up, and on a 2-0 count, there's a ball, so it makes it 3-0, and the ball gets away from the catcher, Heim. And Urshela, just, again, the situation, if you have a really good lead and you know you can get there, sure, you can do it in that spot. But Gio gets thrown out at third, caught stealing. Or not even caught stealing, just thrown out at third. On the play, he would slide into Culberson's spikes. He was shaking his hand there, and Gio's already banged up, so what hurt, which, adding insult to injury, hopefully he's okay. He would end up, going back to, third base in the 9th, so hopefully he's all right, but really a rough day. Obviously, Gio being the hero in the one sense, but just really not smart base running. Chapman comes in the 9th, strikes out Nate Lowe, walks Gallo, Garcia lines out to center, and then the pinch hitter, Chris Davis, strikes out, and that's the ball game. So Yankees win the series, another 2-0 victory. They shut Texas out for the last 22 innings, I believe, of that series. And the Yankees improve the record to 25-19. Now they go home to face the White Sox, and this should be a very intriguing matchup. Chicago, I believe, record-wise, has the best record in the American League. This is a definitely good team that does play in a very weak AL Central. We have to, definitely say that. But this is an impressive team that also is incredible against lefties, which is where I segue into the pitching matchups. The first game is Jordan Montgomery. This is going to be a really tough outing for Montgomery. Let's remember, though, he was not good in his last start at Baltimore, so he needs a bounce back. His ERA has jumped up to 4.75. It's been up and down for Montgomery, and this will not be easy. So I think expectations need to be limited for Montgomery, and you're kind of just hoping for him to kind of grind out maybe 5 innings and somehow give up like maybe 2-3 runs. Just kind of keep him in it, because the White Sox numbers, they're a very right-handed heavy lineup. Again, numbers across the board, batting average, on base, slugging, OPS, clearly the best against lefties. So it's something to keep an eye on for. and they face Carlos Rodon, who's 5-1 with a 1.47 ERA. So this first game to me is going to be challenging. If they can win it, I'm feeling really good about things. Game 2, you get Garrett Cole on the mound coming off a bad outing. Certainly for him against Dylan Cease, who's had a really good year himself. But this is the outing where I think you're feeling most confident about. It's by no means a short shot. That's the one where you want to win. And then the last one is Jameson Taillon, who's been the worst Yankee starter, but he is at home against Dallas Keuchel, who hasn't been great. So to me, that first matchup with Monty is going to be tough. And then really, you got to win the Cole start. And hopefully you can maybe manage to split the Montgomery and Taillon outings. It reminds me of that Tampa series recently that started the road trip where they were able to do that. Montgomery pitched great, and then Cole won, and they lost the Taillon outing. So they were able to, and it lines up the same way here. So this will be key. I think a good litmus test, because the Yankees, it's been a lot of in division with some weak opponents, honestly, mixed in between. So would be thrilled just if they can continue to keep that undefeated series streak alive at 7-0-2. Hopefully they can improve that to 8-0-2 after this series at the stadium against the White Sox.